So, welcome everybody, it's Mike here, and I am flying solo today because Linda is unfortunately indisposed right now, but she'll be back next week for sure. We've had tech issues here today, in fact tech issues all week, and I'm beginning to feel that this is some kind of spiritual anomaly that's happening right now as the system is becoming overloaded, and it's this period of time astrologically where things are all going a little bit chaotic. But you know, one of the good things that's happening with all these anomalies is that this is helping us with this ascension into 5D as we get rid of these self-limiting beliefs and that authority knows best, education knows best, and we take responsibility for ourselves. This is the highest form of spiritualism that we can actually achieve. Self-responsibility, intuition, consciousness, and all of this. So I may have spoken before about this, but many of you have probably been receiving ringing in the ears, and some people think it's 5G that's turning on, but no, it's not 5G. You will know it in your area when it's turned on, and even then, you know, it's done in scales, so you might not get the full blast. This ringing in the ears is part of the DNA downloads that we are receiving, and this is helping us change from a carbon-based DNA strands into a crystalline or crystal DNA strand. Hopefully I'll be around in my lifetime to even see more of this, but this is making our body density lighter, and as we transit to a more light body, so we may not appear so solid as what we are, and when we're in this light environment, then we are able to become effectively superhuman and more in the God frequency. So it's a very exciting time. Also, what's happening now, you may find that there's a lot of politicians, but not just politicians, it happens to all of us as well. Truth can only be spoken now, and so we're starting to see a lot of fraudulent slips coming out, and this is problematic for authority. But again, this is part of the ascension because only truth can be spoken now, and it's either going to be said with intention or it's going to slip out one way or the other. This is coming out. Another great thing about this ascension that's happening is that false beliefs are rearing their ugly head. And so beliefs that you've held true for many, many years in the 3D, quasi 4D world that we're living in, now start to showing the reality that they're not true. And what do I mean by this? Well, up until this point, a belief pattern that you've held may very well be true in this paradigm, in this matrix or computer program, a simulation that we are apparently living in. And it works perfectly well. But as your awareness has risen and you see something from a different perspective, from a wider angle, in other words, as an infinite possibility, that belief no longer holds true. And it's causing problems. Naturally, it would cause problems. The advice would be to just go with it, just roll with it and allow it and accept it. The other problem is that a false belief that you've held all your life is actually a false belief. And the truth in this frequency that we're in now is actually revealing it. So all will be well. I'm absolutely quite sure about this, that all is going to divine plan. And it can go quicker as soon as we start focusing our thoughts on the world that we want, rather than focus on the fear energy of what's going on in and around us. Because it's very clear to me, and I think a lot of spiritual people, they understand that all existence is the manifestation of frequency and sound that is dominated by consciousness in one form or another. So whether we're in human form or spirit form, or it's just pure energy, it's all consciousness. And if we start thinking in terms of consciousness, then we can start really creating a world of abundance for everyone. I mentioned Linda is not with us today. Unfortunately, she is indisposed. She's going to be back next week. But what this means is that I could really do with your help today. The show's going to be shorter, as you might expect. But if you can comment and get involved in the show a little bit more, this will help me save my voice a little bit, because tonight I'm actually doing a talk on 5D awareness, and I'll be talking for about an hour and a half non-stop. And so I still have to prepare and do other things. It's really quite an exciting period for us all. And if I get a chance and that can be recorded, then I'll be happily to share that with you. So, but on today's show, Katerina is going to join us, naturally, with the news. We're going to look at the Menger Hotel, I think it's called, and the ghost toilet. I mean, whatever happens, for want of a better phrase, no pun intended, a ghost to possess itself to be in a toilet, I'll never know. We're going to look at that. Hi, Kelly, my cousin in New York, has just joined us up very early, having her morning coffee. Or Connecticut, excuse me. So we're going to look at these two particular ghost things. We're going to look at some short angel stories. And I've got some angel stories that I want to read out after. So we've made a little diversion from the show today. I just managed to find all this stuff before I realised that Linda can't join us. We're going to look at Bob Hazlett. He's a healer and a prophet doing some amazing work. And we're going to see him actually talk about the healing that he does and the information that he got while he was in heaven. It wasn't an NDE experience, but he experienced the feeling of heaven. And we'll look at Melody's NDE, an interesting one, because there's a similarity with some other NDEs where people were in a drowning situation. And we're going to look at the work of Angela Dunlop. So let's first of all see what Katerina has to say. She's going to be talking about the true story behind Jeepers Creepers. And this guy looks very much like that character in Men in Black, you know, the one where the spaceship landed and he took the costume of one of those farmers. So we're going to look at that. And she's also going to look at the Adam calendar coming from Africa. So let's waste no more time. Let's get over to Katerina and hear what she has to say.
Hi, my constantly searching, constantly wondering, constantly curious and questioning friends. It's me, Caterina Antonina Campagna, and I'm here to give you the news that makes you go, ah! Brr. Or simply, what the what? Why is no one else talking about this? Well, we're talking about it with you today. So here we go. The Open Door News segment. We're here to tell you that Jeepers Creepers was actually based on a real life incident. That's right. The movie that horrified audiences with a demon who came to life every 23 years and consumed his victims if he liked their scent was based on one Mr. Dennis DePue. In the 90s, he was given divorce marching papers by his wife, and he lost his mind, prompting him to take her life and throwing her remains in the back of a abandoned school. Now, the television show Unsolved Mysteries got a wind of his precarious state and did an episode on him. He was actually witnessed throwing his wife's remains away and then saw that he was being watched and chased after the men that were witnesses to his heinous crime. And luckily they got away and lived to tell the tale to Unsolved Mysteries. Once Dennis saw this episode, he knew his gig was up and he took his own life. And then later, Victor Salva used the same footage of the truck's license plate being chased down the highway in the movie Jeepers Creepers. So what do you think? Is fact scarier than fiction? On to Africa for good measure. Why not, right? We're going to talk about the Adams calendar. Now, it is the African Stonehenge, as many refer to it as well. And there is currently an excavation underway. And what they find is very interesting. Not only are there thousands of these monoliths stretched across thousands of acres in miles in Africa, but there's also burial sites reportings. That's right. They think that these huge monoliths, in addition to being able to tell things astronomically, are also a site of the dead because they have found bones and skulls. And even more interesting is the fact that they are seeing that these peoples, which nobody knows much about, this ancient society, buried their dead in portions. That's right. They would sometimes bury the body, wait for the flesh to decay, take it out of the shallow grave, and then bury the certain bones in a deeper grave. And there could have been procession ceremonies around these happenings. And they've also dug up under one Mr. Augustine Hall, and people from the University of Michigan, a lot of jawbones buried with pots. So it could have been some kind of offering to ancient gods. I don't know. What do you think? Interesting, huh? Are you going to go to Africa to try to find out for yourself? That's all for this week. Thank you so much for watching. Stay blessed, stay beautiful, and above all, stay curious, my friends.
Yeah, it's very interesting. There's a South American country that actually does this. They, after a year after the body is fully decayed, the family open the box up, take the clothes off, what's remaining of it, clean the bones, and they put it in a small little box that goes in a wall. There's many different rituals here with burials as well. The Day of the Dead. Often in some countries they put food down by the grave side. Actually, quite a nice thing to do. I think actually very meaningful. If only it keeps the connection with the loved one. For me personally, cemeteries, I have the understanding that my loved ones are not there anyway. It's just the earthly remains. So I don't visit cemeteries to see my family and friends because they're not there. I keep that within myself. So there we are. That's what Katerina had to say. Interesting. Jeepers Creepers was based on a true story. I never knew that, but there we go. But let's go over to our first segment here, the Menger Hotel, excuse me if I don't know what it is, in San Antonio, California, I believe. Does ghost tours, and you can see ghosts there. Apparently there's over 43 ghosts. I don't know where they got the number 43 from. They obviously evidently counted them. There's some famous people there, which we'll see, one of them. Sally White, a chambermaid who died there, still apparently continues to work there on the third floor. A guy called Louis Mose Rose was apparently named the Alamo Coward because this hotel apparently is built on the land in and around where the Alamo and the various battles took place, and he done a quick shifty in the middle of the night, so he was the only one that didn't die. So that's unfortunately what he's remembered for. And then we're going to have a look at the toilet ghost. As I say, what possesses a ghost to want to turn up behind a toilet pan? I'll never know. Let's see what you think. Is it true or false? Is it fakery? Well, I wish Linda was here because she is more inclined to understand how this all works. But we'll have a look first of all. Let's go over to the Menger Hotel and see the comings and goings there.
Bloody history, and it's often referred to as one of the most haunted hotels in the United States. The area is notorious for ghost sightings, harking back to its heritage as a military compound and political prison. Disembodied battle cries are often reported by tourists visiting the area. Soldiers in 19th century attire have been spotted, only to disappear moments later. Even visions of monks in robes have been haunting this blood-soaked property for years. The Menger Hotel is famous for being the place where Theodore Roosevelt recruited men to fight for him in the Spanish-American War. Hotel staff have reported all sorts of strange paranormal happenings, such as objects inexplicably flying across the room. Others also claim to have seen the spirit of Roosevelt himself sitting at the bar after hours. One of our viewers, Chewy Lazoya, recently participated in one of the hotel's notorious ghost tours. While walking around, soaking in the history, the tour guide said to take a lot of photos, just in case something paranormal might happen. And so Lazoya did, but didn't think much of it. That was until they got home and reviewed the pictures. Here's the photo that freaked them out. At first, nothing seems too out of place. But take a look at the mirror on the right-hand side of the photo. There appears to be a dark figure in the reflection. The figure is shadow-like with a grey skeletal face. Naturally, this image freaked a lot of viewers out on our Facebook group. However, a lot of comments were confused by the reflection itself. It looks distorted and seems to be reflecting another mirror on an angle that seems impossible. This strange detail led many to think that the photo had been photoshopped. This also raised our own suspicions, so we ran some filters over the image to see what's going on. Here you can see a noise analysis filter. In most cases, this filter can detect when an image has been manipulated in Photoshop. As you can see, it doesn't show any signs of being altered in any way. We then applied a luminance gradient filter which shows how light sources interact with the image. Here we can see that there is indeed something in the mirror, however the figure is indented as though the light isn't interacting properly. This doesn't mean it's photoshopped, it means that whatever's reflected in the mirror seems to be devoid of light altogether. Eerily, this isn't the only ghost photo we've been sent from the Menger Hotel. A few years ago, a fan of ours known as Johnny sent this picture in claiming he'd captured the spirit of an old monk. If you look in the top left-hand corner of the image, you can see a black entity that appears to be wearing a robe. The figure is hunched, yet partially see-through, and almost looks like it's hovering. So then, is the Menger Hotel really haunted? Given its bloody history, the haunting reports from staff and patrons, and now these strange images, it certainly does make you wonder whether this old hotel really is harbouring something paranormal. Perhaps the spirits of those who died here long ago. There's very little information about this mysterious video, except that it was supposedly captured somewhere in Japan. The footage shows two men in a public bathroom. The bathroom seems empty, yet one of them claims he can hear a voice. Convinced that he can hear a sound, he coaxes the other man towards one of the toilet stalls. After a quick search, they discover that the sound seems to be coming from a small radio left by the base of one of the toilets. At first, this seems like a perfectly logical explanation for the mysterious sounds, yet the pair soon discover that the device is actually unplugged. While the situation up until this point is certainly odd, it's when the man exits the stall that things get really creepy. Watch. Suddenly, the pale face of a young woman can be seen by the man's elbow. Her appearance is so brief that if you blink, you'll probably miss it. However, if you slow the footage down, you can clearly see the mysterious face. The area is very small, so it'd be almost impossible for the man to not have seen the woman when he entered the stall. That, coupled with the face's ghostly appearance, has led many to believe that it might actually be a spirit of some kind. So what do you think's been captured in this video? Could the face really belong to a ghost? Or is there a chance there could have been someone hiding in the stall the whole time? Take another look at the footage and let me know what you think in the comments section down below.
So there we go. Yes, tell us what you think. The first one, the Menger Hotel. The issue I have with that is that, well, the woman in the mirror has the same hair. She also has this band across the eyes, and the woman who's not in the mirror seems to have what looks like glasses round her ears. So it is quite possible that this is a reflection of her in the mirror and somehow it's got distorted. I can't explain the filters, so it could very well be that if this isn't photoshopped, this could very well be a phenomena, a spiritual phenomena. I guess the only people who will know about this are the people that are there. Pure and simple. So let me know what you think about this. I mean, the hotel is haunted, and at $170 a night, well, good luck to you if you wish to stay there. So let's have a look. Catherine says, what about the mirror in the mirror? That was weird. Yeah, it really was weird, and I think that's what provoked them into thinking that this was some kind of Photoshop. And if that's the case, it was done by someone amateur, because they would have been able to take that mirror out. It does raise more questions than answers, actually, doesn't it? But it's certainly weird. And if you take into account the history of this hotel, where it's located on the site of where the Alamo took place, it's not surprising that there is some kind of shenanigans going on. But, you know, I wouldn't want to pay $170 a night and have the jeepers scared out of me. And I think if you are going to stay in that hotel, then you should really set an intention to say that you wish to be left alone. Which brings me to another point. Just in any other regular hotel that you go and stay in, how many people have slept on that bed that you're sleeping in? All those energies, yeah, they may have changed the sheets and done all that, but the energy's still there. And I don't know if you noticed, if you do stay in a hotel overnight, the first night, your dream patterns and actually the dream experience is completely different to what you would normally have in your own home. So, okay, let's have a look at the second one, this spirit that turns up in the toilet. Problem I have with it, well, first of all, can a radio play without it being turned on and without electricity? Well, it could have batteries, and we do know that spirit can do this type of thing. That's clear. What is the thing doing in the toilet in the first place? Does somebody take a radio to the toilet and forget it? Highly unlikely. And then we also have the problem, once again, that it is so unclear that the elbow you can just about see the spirit with the elbow, and then it all cuts off. If it were me filming that, then clearly I would have to say, move your elbow and let's have a look. But this doesn't get done. It seems to, the elbow is almost deliberately hiding that kind of image that's being seen there. Personally, in this case, I think this one is fake. I don't, because if we go back, let's just take a quick look at this. I'm going to
bloody history. And
it does pop out from behind, according to that. Kim says, I'll ask what Linda asks. Why would someone film someone walking around in a toilet? Yeah, that's a very, very good point. And everyone seems to have cameras at the ready, don't they? So, yeah, I think you've just confirmed my thoughts, Kim, that this would most likely be fake. So anyone else, please, let's hear what you have to say about this. I really want to hear your comments. And while you're preparing your comments, I'm just going to go over now, play another clip of two very short angel stories. And then I've found some angel stories that I'm going to read out for you. So let's just take a look at these two angel stories.
Angels at crash site. Lily Leonardi's story may seem unbelievable to some, but the former FBI officer, who retired after suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder linked to her role in the aftermath of the September 11th terror attacks, is adamant about what she witnessed. Leonardi said she saw legions of angels guarding the Pennsylvania site where United Airlines Flight 93 crashed. When she arrived at the site, just 3 hours after the crash, she was struck by numerous elements. She was so startled, she kept it to herself out of fear that her coworkers would think she lost her mind. I started seeing shimmery lights, and it was kind of misty, and that's when I first saw angels there, Leonardi said. And I didn't say anything to the guys, because you can imagine if I would have said. I just saw angels on the crash site. They'd have called the office and they'd have said she lost her mind, and tell her to go home. They were dressed as if they were in warrior garb like a Roman centurion, she said. There were so many of them, you couldn't see their faces. She continued to see flickers of light, each angel guarding the crash site. Her hope in sharing her story is that people would know that God was present on 9/11. Angelic encounter during car accident. Pastor John Boston was driving down the road when another car crossed the center line and came barreling toward him. The pastor swerved to miss the vehicle and struck a utility pole, sending a live transformer crashing onto his car. Immediately, the metal and glass began to buckle on the intense heat from thousands of volts of electricity. His 4-year-old daughter, who was with him, was trapped inside the burning car. The seat belt was stuck and the door wouldn't open. That's when a scruffy-looking stranger came out of nowhere and easily opened the smashed door. The man removed him from the car and walked him 20 feet away from the vehicle to safety before the car exploded in flames. He said, "My name is Johnny, the police are almost here. And I can't be here when they get here, but you're gonna be okay," said Pastor Boston. And then the man was gone. He said that people who tried to rationalize the situation thought the circuit breaker simply tripped and Johnny fled because of a sketchy past. However, firefighters say there are some aspects of what happened that defy logic, reason, and science. Pastor Boston is convinced he encountered an angel that day.
Yeah, two very short stories there. I've no doubt that angels or God was present on all in and around the 9/11 scenario. Of course, they always will be. It just doesn't seem apparent at the time to us. But that was an interesting one about the car story, because we've experienced a similar story on this show where somebody was trapped in a burning car, and somebody come along and pulled them out and just disappeared into thin air. We've also seen where the lady that broke down on this very dark highway, and this truck pulled up, a youngish man, and it was a car from the 30s. And he wouldn't speak. He just kept smiling at her, repaired it, got in the truck and went away. And she reported that she just saw the car as it drove away disappear into thin air. There's many of these stories that are coming through now. I'm just going to take a bit of time to read you a couple of angel stories here that come by my way. She said, I was about 4 years old. Mum had sent me to bed. My oldest sister was being bathed in the bathroom with Mum. I'm 68 years old now, so how old I was may be a bit hazy. But what isn't hazy is the memory of the angel. And here is the account which I'm pleased to describe. I looked out of the bedroom window into the dark sky and saw a light which looked like a star. Only it was growing in size until I realised it was actually coming to me. I stepped back to let it through the window, and as it did, it landed on the floor in a flood of light. I ran behind the bed, not scared, but fascinated, as it changed form and grew into the shape of being about an adult size next to me. But the image became an angel. Her wings opened. I watched her, and I remember loving her. It was so beautiful. The colours of her translucent and glowing skin, her face became focused, and she looked at me. I wanted so much to go to her, so I did. I went up to her, and when I did, she faded and disappeared. I was so excited, I ran into the bathroom to tell Mum, only to be chastised for not being in bed and not to tell stories like that. I probably got a smack as well. Anyway, I'm 68 now, and not a moment of the experience has ever been forgotten. In details, I have wondered why you couldn't reproduce the colours, and I don't know why. I suppose it was because she was out of this world. But I remember her beauty after all these years. Fabulous. I would love to see her again, but I know what her message was for me. She was there to show me hope, faith and belief, as my life had been filled with a lot of traumatic events and evil, which I've seen as well. So my memory of her has always been through me. So I got a couple more there. I'm going to read them after we take the next segment. Catherine says, I have seen or felt angels at the psychic festival. It was amazing. There must have been 100. Bravo, Catherine. Well done. So clearly your psychic portal is open there. Yes, a fabulous experience to witness something like this. So I'll read another angel story out after this next segment. And this is Bob Hazlett. He's a healer and a prophet. He's got his own ministry. So he does talk in a very biblical way. That's okay because his healing works. So let's go over and listen to this story of the healing work he does and how he heals, because this is important for us healers. There's a good message in there, and perhaps we've forgotten to look at the healing in the way he does. So let's run this, and we'll get back after.
Well, a couple years ago, I went to Australia, and I had a heaven thought. I was just praying for people, and a young woman came up that was about 21 years old, and she had a withered hand like this with a scar. I found out she had gone through a plate glass window when she was 4, so I prayed for her that hand would be healed, and nothing happened. And so I prayed again, and all of a sudden I had this thought. I saw it in heaven. I saw her playing the piano with 2 hands. And so I told her, this is what I see. I see you playing the piano with 2 hands and singing a song that you wrote yourself. And when I told her what I saw, she began to cry because she had just started taking piano lessons a year before. And she said, I can only play with 1 hand. So this time when we prayed knowing what heaven's thought was. And I said, God, thank you for 2 brand new piano hands. And when I opened my eyes, I looked, and her hand was wide open like this. And the great thing about it
What
was
she could not do before it was
she
withered.
opened it up, and she actually went home that day. She sent me a message on social media 2 days later. I went home today, played the piano with 2 hands for the first time. I wrote my first song. I actually called and sang it for my pastor. I'm going to sing it in church next week. I believe we're going to see a shift from the rulership from the top to the rulership from beneath, and there's going to be local and state leadership that's going to begin to pass laws for the value of life, and that's only one of the issues that's going to be affected by this.
Okay, you had a vision.
Yes.
In heaven of the lampstand. Briefly, tell me what it was and what effect it had on you.
You know, when God gives you a thought, you can enter back into it. You can enter into a bad memory or a good memory. And I was walking through the stages of the tabernacle, and as I got closer to the Holy of Holies, there was this lampstand. Zechariah says it's the lampstand of heaven. Isaiah said it's the sevenfold Spirit of God. And so there was this being there, I believe it was an angel, it didn't have a face, that handed me these 7 vials of oil and said, this is the anointing oil of the sevenfold Spirit of God, the fullness of the Spirit. And as a result, you're going to see brain injuries healed. The way I poured anointing oil over you when you're ordained, you're going to anoint people with the Spirit of God, and you're going to see brain injuries healed.
Pray that right now.
So very interesting there. One of the things that I picked up from this, and this has been told to a lot of us, and so I don't know how long ago this recording was actually made, but as we enter into this 5D world, we will actually see the rule of law and power shift from the top to the bottom, from the bottom to the top. I was also told that it won't be so much ruling, but there'll be more senates and elders that will offer advice. But it's up to the people to go their own way. So there won't be this finger ruling, pointing thing now as we enter into 5D. Another important message is there that the healing that took place there, he did the healing based on the message that he received. So he says that he saw from heaven, from God, this woman playing the piano. So his healing was focused on the message. And that's something, if you're healers, that you haven't done before, perhaps is a technique that you ought to try. Interestingly, as he was talking about the power shift, I think the window of opportunity is going to be open for about 3 weeks now. But there is, I don't know the name for it, I've forgotten the name for it, but an opportunity exists now for something that you have had in the past that you can now manifest into the present time. So if it was absolute great health you had in the past, now you can manifest it into the future. If you had wealth in the past, now you can manifest it into this present time. And I think this door only is open for about 3 weeks. Something to do with balancing and the alignment of the new faster planetary movements and so on and so forth. So now would be an opportunity. If you have had an experience in the past, then now is the time to bring that back into the present moment. So thank you, Catherine. Visualization, intent, and universal energy. Absolutely, couldn't agree more with you. I think it's important, and I say this now before I read out the next clip. I was looking at a study that showed, and it's a scientific study, that people that meditated for a year or more and that were very, very serious about their meditation, so they would do it for long periods. They didn't mention how long, but I would presume maybe twice a day, 30 minutes a day, 40 minutes a day. They drew the blood of these people and introduced a pseudo-SARS virus. And they found that when the pseudo-SARS virus hit the cell walls, it couldn't penetrate it, thus rendering them immune to infection. And so this is a long study, and I'm just giving you the generalization of it. But they also took the proteins of these people who weren't infected, and they introduced that into a control group who were infected. And lo and behold, they found that they suddenly become uninfected. This is because the information that was in the protein of expanded awareness, infinite possibilities, was now placed into another body, and the other body recognizes, hang on, I'm infinite awareness, infinite opportunities, and so on. And so the memory was placed into another body, and the same result happened. It's a fascinating study, and this goes to show that you can raise yourself above that level of dis-ease or bodily imbalance being above you once you reach heart and mind coherence. Certainly worth getting involved in, and I think now is the time that we should be doing that type of thing. Let me read out another angel story, and this one's from Hope. And it said, I've had many encounters with angels. I was not asleep. My eyes were open, and it was always in the night. On one encounter, I was awakened one night after having prayed for God's help. There were 3 angels over my bed. The angel in the centre held a sword and a shield. The angel to my right had eyes so bright I could not look into them. The angel on my left held something in its hands that I could not identify. They were transparent, but I could determine their facial features. They were the same. Peace and calm enveloped me. I sat up in bed, just to know I was awake and not dreaming. They did not leave, but soon my eyes got too heavy to stay open, and when I laid back down, they were gone. On another encounter with angels, I had prayed to God for peace from depression, which I was experiencing at the time. Following the death of a friend, a sound woke me in the night, and surrounding me on all corners of the bed were angels. They brought the most remarkable feeling of love and peace. I thanked them out loud for being there, and again my eyes were heavy and I fell asleep. I have had more experiences with angels and have offered to take a lie detector test to prove I'm not making these stories up. They are real and bring peace and calm. And I've got one more story I'm going to read out to you, but I'm going to do that after we've taken a look at Melody's NDE, Melody's near-death experience. So let's run this. I'll get back to you and feel free to comment.
When Meolody was 6 years old, she was involved in a rafting accident at a family picnic, where she drowned to death. During this tragedy, she was taken on a beautiful spiritual journey to the other side. This is Melody's story.
In 1958, on a beautiful Sunday, we went to a local beach, and we were having a barbecue and swimming, and my sister took my brother and I on a raft, and she started pushing us into the water, just pushing us around on the raft. And my older brother pushed me off the raft. And I went down deep, deep, deep into the water. And I could hardly breathe. I mean, I knew that I was drowning. And I was only 7 years old at the time, and I couldn't help myself. I couldn't do anything to help me. And all of a sudden I saw a white light, and it was a magnificent white light. And it was above me. It wasn't, you couldn't see, there was no clouds, there was no blue sky. It was this bright, amazing, beautiful light. And it pulled me toward it. And I could feel myself floating up and just being so light and floating. And I no longer had the problem of breathing, and the water wasn't there, surrounding me, making me feel very cold. And I went higher and higher. And as I'm going up in this beautiful light, on the side of me were all of these people. And they were white and they were shiny, and it was almost like they were ghosts, but I knew that they weren't. And I started moving up, and I got closer and closer. I got closer to the white beam, the white light, and there, at the very end of it, was a white being just shining absolutely beautiful. And behind it were 5 other, I would say almost angelic beings. In fact, they all seemed like angelic beings to me. And I felt nothing but love, empathy, kindness, caring, warmth, genuine love. It was amazing, and it just filled me up. It filled up my heart. It filled up everything around me. Here was a 7-year-old, feeling safe in a place that was so unfamiliar. And I wanted to stay there forever. And things were said to me. Things were told to me. And then they told me that it was time for me to go back. That it was time for me to return. And I slowly felt myself moving back down from the light. And as it got darker and darker, as I was, moving past the wonderful angelic beings that were basically, reaching out and touching me. I could sense a smile on them, and it was beautiful. And then when I got back into the water, I felt somebody pulling my hair and pulling me out of the water. And I was still unconscious. I could just feel everything moving. And then my father ran into the water and grabbed me and took me to the side on the beach. And he was able to put me on my side and to press my chest and to make sure, and the water came out. And when I became aware, my mother was standing there holding my baby brother, and my other 2 siblings, my sister and my brother, were standing next to my mother, and there was crowds all around us. And I was okay. But I knew something changed. I knew something was different. I changed. I was no longer just a child. There was so much that I learned that was told to me, and it was given to me in my subconscious level, not my conscious level. And I couldn't comprehend, and they did say to me, up in the white light, that I would remember these, that this would all come to me.
Thanks for watching today's video. Please don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel, as it helps us get more of these stories out in this format for more interested viewers. To watch this full unedited interview in its entirety, visit the link in the description. Let us know what you think of today's videos in the comments, and we'll see you on the next one.
So there we are. This drowning NDE is very resemblant of other NDEs that we've seen. There was the story of the young girl who drowned, and she obviously was in a more deathly condition than this young lady, because she said all of a sudden, she said she saw this person floating towards her that she would recognize, and it turns out she recognized that it was her dead body. And she said that I didn't feel any panic, any fear, just I've made the transition, and that was it. And actually, I've spoken before about my quasi NDE when I was a child. I don't think I'd fully passed over to the other side. I can remember I swallowed a marble, and I didn't have a tunnel or anything like this. I just remember suddenly going from the bed, and there I was at the end of the room. I remember I was sitting down, my legs were crossed, and I was just looking at my mother beating this marble out of me like this. And it eventually came out. But the point I'm saying is, I didn't feel panic. I didn't feel anxious. I didn't feel lost. I didn't feel alone. I was just okay. And the next minute I knew I was back in the body. So I fully understand these experiences. Catherine says there are too many similar experiences to disregard the evidence. Absolutely. But the buggers still try and do, Catherine. That's the problem. One of the best NDEs I've listened to is the Aben Alexander. It's still doing the rounds, and if you've never heard this NDE before, then he does a whole lecture on it. It's about an hour and 40 minutes, so it might be a good idea to go to YouTube and have a look at that. Let me read out this last angel story for you. Very interesting because there's a little twist to it. It says she suffered a cardiac arrest during her stay in the hospital where I, and in brackets, Weiss, was a chairman of the psychiatry department. She was unconscious as the resuscitation team tried to revive her. According to her later report, she floated out of her body and stood near the window, watching the resuscitation. She observed, without any pain whatsoever, as they thumped on her chest and pumped air into her lungs. During the resuscitation, a pen fell out of the doctor's pocket and rolled near the window, where her out-of-body spirit was standing and watching. The doctor eventually walked over, picked up the pen, and put it back in his pocket. He then rejoined the frantic effort to save her. They succeeded. A few days later, she told her doctor that she had observed the resuscitation team at work during her cardiac arrest. No, he soothingly reassured her, you were probably hallucinating because of anoxia, a lack of oxygen to the brain. This can happen when the heart stops beating. She said, but I saw your pen roll over to the window. Then she described the pen and other details of the resuscitation. The doctor was shocked. His patient had not only been comatose during the resuscitation, but she had also been blind for many years. And apparently after that, she had her vision back again. So there you are. That kind of NDE restored her vision. So kudos to her. So look, we're going to wrap this up a little bit now. I think we've done well to manage almost an hour here. We're going to go over and look at the work, as we always do, of a medium. And this is the work of Angela Dunlop. She is a medium from Northern Ireland. And so the accent that you hear is a cross between an Irish accent and really a Celtic or a Welsh accent. It might take a little bit of getting used to, but an excellent medium. So let's listen to her work.
Somebody would have had a passing to do with work, but it was a fall to his death, and it was to do with like scaffolding. It was an accident, like it wasn't intentional or anything, and he seemed to like fall off. And are you getting that's the bar woman again? All of that? It's alright, as long as it's the right thing.
They charge her a tenner.
Oh, she's getting £20 now, she's had 2 legs. What do you think?
Yeah.
All of it? Was he on scaffolding at the time whenever the accident happened? Because I getting like just slipping off. And I feel, was he doing roofing, do you know?
He was a roofer, yeah.
Yeah, because he showed me that's what he was doing at the time. So I'm sorry, he just jumped in your granny, isn't that lovely? But I felt he comes as a friend. So was it a friend of yours?
Yeah.
Because he doesn't feel family. So that's why I thought that fella would have known him. So let's keep going on with you for 2 wee seconds and see what he wants to say. Because it's an unusual passing, isn't it? But I feel, now, can it be a wee tad personal? Oh, I don't know if this is going to be right. Did he fancy you?
Do I have to have that question?
Do you know what? He makes me feel a bit of romance, or a wee bit of sweetie coochie, or a wee something.
We used to get on really well.
He's here, but all I'll say is he must have been, without getting into your whole personal business, I still feel like he was a wee bit of a flirt. And he did like you. I'm going to be honest, he feels that he remembers you in a fondness a bit more romantically in that way. Not necessarily that he's got it on, but just that he liked you in that way. So I think he fancied you, alright? And I'm saying to him, is that all you're wanting to say to her? And you've got some characters, don't you? But I like him, he's lovely and he's there. And I feel like he just wants people to know, because he was only young at the time when he passed, just so you know that as well. But he wants people, and it was, God bless him, like it was, because he showed me it was a head injury. So do you know if it was to do with his head that took him? Because I'm not getting, obviously had an impact on his heart, but it was more head. And he showed me he was messing about at the time. That's what he's
Oh,
saying.
Yeah, he's got sister-in-laws.
Yeah, he just went, I was messing about at the time, like just having that wee bit of crack and banter the way he always done. And here is Angela, it didn't even, and he just went 1 foot, just that's it, slipped and away, here he is, and I went back. So it wasn't that he went forward, he went back, and then that's what took place.
So there we go, the work of Angela Dunlop, a Northern Ireland medium. She's from Belfast, and as you can hear, if you're not used to English accents, that can be, or Irish accents to be more accurate, then it might be a bit problematic. You may have to go back and listen to it again. So look, that's it. We've wrapped it up. We've just about done the hour. We got through it all. Please continue to comment. If you have an angel story and you don't want to record it, then please just send me the text and I will read it out. It doesn't have to be long. It can be just something that takes about 2 minutes, a minute or 2 minutes to read, because I think people like to hear these stories. So please, if you do have an angelic story, a visitation, an NDE, a shared death experience, anything that can bring us all together in this community and help lift our spirits, raise us up to know that everything is okay, everything was, is and will be. Nothing is created, nothing dies, it always was, is and will be. And yes, so please do this. I'll be back next week. Linda will be back next week. Catherine said, I sent you mine. Did I miss it? Yes, maybe I missed it. Perhaps, Catherine, you could send it again, please. That would be great. And I'll jump on it after Thursday and try and get it in for the show next week. Tonight I've got a talk to do, so I've got to have a power nap, something to eat, and get ready and get on over there. So yes, Catherine, please do, if you could send it to me again, that would be marvellous. In the meantime, everyone out there in Australia, I know it's getting on for the evening there for you. In New York and the East Coast, they're just waking up. Here in Central Europe, in Austria, it's about midday, and well, let the fun begin. In the meantime, everybody, have a great day. Keep well, keep your frequency high, trust in the divine, trust in yourself. Bye-bye for now.